Emerging news from George on the Garden Route in South Africa, where in the past hour, news has come out that Cape suspected underworld figure and businessman Mark Lifman was shot dead in a parking lot at the Garden Route Mall in George today, Sunday, November 3rd, 2024. According to news media, several well-placed police sources speaking on the condition of anonymity had confirmed that, in fact, Lifman had been killed. Photos of the scene circulating on social media show a body covered in an emergency blanket behind a police cordon line. Now, Lifman was due to appear in the Western Cape High Court tomorrow for the Brian Wainstein murder trial. For those not keeping score about events in the gangster world of the Western Cape, let's get you up to date. Brian Wainstein was gunned down in his Constantia home in August of 2017 as he lay sleeping next to his wife and child. At the time of his murder, he was named in Interpol's most wanted list as he allegedly had fled the United States. Weinstein was also reportedly wanted by judicial authorities in Italy for prosecution and to serve a jail sentence. In a huge underworld trial, the state brought Weinstein's former bodyguard to take the stand and outline his links to the 27 gangs, as well as Jerome Donkey Boyson and Mark Lifman, also accused of being behind the murder. Now, the bodyguard, who could not be named, took to the stand in recent months to tell a harrowing tale of how he turned on his former boss and plotted his murder. Sophie Petley, a social worker that's working with the court, told the court that Mr. X is suffering severe emotional trauma as a consequence of his testimony. She said Mr. X, the bodyguard, is having sleepless nights, nightmares, flashbacks, and headaches, and this, with the stress of having to go through a negative impact of existing health conditions, is causing him serious challenges. In court, she was called to help him after he fell during the trial. Now, the dramatic testimony that the former bodyguard, Mr. X, gave was shocking, to say the least. He kicked off the testimony with detailed explanation of how he started doing debt collection work for Wainstein and then progressed to becoming a trusted bagman in Weinstein's illegal steroids business, and finally, how he helped to arrange for his murder. Mr. X also testified that he was an informant for crime intelligence, where he was offered a cut of drug seizures and was paid 120,000 Rand for his work with a handler. Now, those on trial for that murder include the now deceased businessman Mark Lifman, alleged Sexy Boys gang boss Jerome Boyson, security company owner Andre Naudier, and others who were implicated in this large alleged organized crime case centered on Weinstein's murder and a nightclub security dispute with Nefez Modak. But it doesn't end there, folks. There are so many others who are tied to this, the 28s. This underworld activity in the Western Cape and in South Africa in general is really off the charts. It's shocking what happens in South Africa under the nose of police. Well, not really. We consider that the Minister of Police for years was the cat in the hat who couldn't find his way out of a paper bag unless he was race hustling. Wow. Mark Lifman gunned down at the mall in George on the Garden Route, South Africa, the gangster state. This all raises very interesting questions with the assassination or the hit on Mark Lifman. Who silenced Mark Lifman? And why now? Was Lifman planning on turning state witness against his co-accused? Or is this merely just a random shooting, a robbery gone wrong? I think not. Who profits from his murder? His co-accused? If in fact they're guilty, they could profit, but we don't know that they're guilty. They're standing trial. These are all interesting questions, none of which we have answers for, and to answer any of them would be simply speculation. But there is another interesting angle in all of this, and that is the alleged role of Ralph Stanfield and his wife, Nicole Johnson. According to the bodyguard Mr. X, Nicole Johnson and her husband, the alleged 28's gang boss, Ralph Stanfield, were friends of Wainstein and admitted to telling Stanfield lies to avoid being implicated in the murder. That is interesting, to say the least. Bottom line, this is just pure gangsterism. This is why the Federal Bureau of Investigation was created in the 1930s in the United States, to deal with organized crime as a consequence, in our case, of prohibition, a foolhardy constitutional amendment which destroyed America's beer industry and caused undue pain at a time that we could ill afford it. Meanwhile, in South Africa, what is going on here? People just being gunned down in broad daylight, taxi bosses in Port Elizabeth, taxi drivers in Cape Town, private citizens, and all of those with links to organized crime. Alleged links. Wow. The gangster state.
I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left.